are we there? Hello, can people see me? I wonder. Is there anybody in the chat right now?
I'm headed over to look.
Because I don't see that we're streaming anywhere.
Nope, there is a live.
Is it live right now?
Yeah.
Do you have video?
I hope so.
I wonder if people can see us there. If you can see us in the chat,
Yeah.
please let us know.
They can hear us talking, I know that.
Do they have video? Confirm video.
And the whole Discord window is up.
Not now. It's probably on a delay.
There we go.
Wow, that's interesting. So, hey everybody, how you guys doing? This is Alex with the Linux Tube. And today is our first podcast starting season 1, episode 1 with our new co-host, Jesse.
Hey guys. If you have watched the Zero Bytes podcast, I'm sure you recognize me from there. And I am happy to be here, Alex.
Nice. Glad to have you aboard, brother. Glad to have you aboard. So today we are talking a couple of things. It's basically just an introduction for Jesse to be welcomed by the TLTers, and also for us to kind of get our feet wet and get to work with each other for the first time. We've had a couple of talks back and forth throughout the week and stuff, and it's been pretty good. Primarily, good vibes, good energy. But before we start, let me go ahead and roll that intro. You ready?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Another sun sets down behind me. Another day comes crashing in. There's a whispering wind that's blowing. There's a storm that's closing in.
And we're back. So today, the topic that I want to talk about is are email clients dead, considering that pretty much everybody uses web-based, interfaces for their email.
This is actually something that I work with day to day in my real world job.
Mm-hmm. And so tell me, what are your pros and cons on it? The reason why I brought it up is because I've seen a lot of news as of late that like Gary's released a couple of updates, and Thunderbird apparently just completely revamped their interface completely. I mean, the app, it's like 115, and it's got the way that they did the email is it mirrors a little bit like your standard web-based Gmail app, right?
Okay.
But
That's probably intentional.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, considering that, I would have to say that when you talk about a web-based app for email, Gmail is kind of like the forerunner. I would have to say.
Oh yeah, they've gone and knocked Outlook and O365 out of that top spot.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
they've done it for a while now.
Yeah, for years now, I'd say. And so they kind of emulated it, but they did it a lot cleaner. In the stack, like when you go to your actual inbox, you can actually see where you've got like the source, then who's involved, in the carbon copied and all that stuff, and then other attributes as well. I mean, they really clean. It looks really nice. You can see pretty much everything at a glance. And so that led me to think, how many people actually use email clients on their desktops, whether it's Mac or whether it's Windows or whether it's Linux. People don't even use them on their phones. I don't think. I mean, I don't know if anybody uses an email client on a phone. You know what I mean?
When you say that, I use it quite a lot. if you would extend a mobile app to mean an email client as well, because I think it is.
Okay. Because I usually
Because
just I'm talking like the Gmail app. You call that an email client, so to speak?
no,
Because that's like
on
an
my
API, right? It just connects to the web interface.
well,
It's
yeah,
not a
but
standalone.
I think it would be a loose definition of a client. But if you're going, old school like Thunderbird, Thunderbird is something that we provide setup for all the time at my job.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our clients who are Windows and Mac based do still use email clients. They're familiar with them. They don't want a web browser open. They might not have the resources to, dedicate something as big as a Chrome tab where a smaller, lighter weight uh, desktop app would actually be less of a drain on resources.
Yeah, I could
Because
see that. I definitely could see
Chrome
that.
tabs, Chrome tabs, and Firefox tabs and Edge tabs, they will use as much RAM as your system lets them do.
This is true, and it's really funny. What I've seen too is I've seen a lot of people use like they'll do like what do you call it, web apps, which is
Yeah,
basically to make like a Gmail web app client, for their Gmail. But all
right.
that
You
is
just
just
wrap the
wrapping yeah, exactly. You're wrapping an actual Chrome tab in like a wrapper, so you're still
right.
destroying your resources on that. And I'll see that they'll have like 3 or 4 of them open because they'll open like their inbox, their sent box, and stuff like that. I've seen that
Yeah,
before, and it's like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
are you kind of goofy or something? I mean, what's going on here?
right.
But
And I think for resource usage, I think that a desktop client can come in handy.
yeah, yeah, I definitely see that. But it's still like I said, I was like, who even uses like email clients anymore? I mean, I on an actual desktop, but I guess in a in a in a personal type situation for a personal PC, you probably wouldn't, but you would in like a corporate office
Oh,
situation.
absolutely. In a corporate environment, I think that they're going to be around for a long time still
Yeah, but then
because
also,
people feel like that's what you're supposed to do.
yeah, exactly. You're supposed to sit around and surf, safe for work videos and watch your email religiously, right?
Right.
None of that NSF stuff, right?
That's
So
what your phone is for.
exactly. So anyhow, I always thought that was kind of unique. I mean, and to be honest
Hmm.
with you, another thing that it did, it spawned me to think, well, how many times have I ever used one in the past, not just recently? I mean, when before all this stuff was. And to be honest with you, I was never an email checker. Very rarely do I ever check my emails. To be honest with you, in fact, if you probably went like I have like 5 or 6 different emails addresses,
Hmm.
right? And if you went and checked my inboxes, you're probably going to see that I've got like hundreds, if not
Oh
almost
no.
thousands of
Oh
emails sitting
no.
in there. you know, usually
Oh.
historically, what it is for me is I'll uh, I'll create an email address because I'm tired of sifting through all the junk mail that comes into to an old email address. And so I'll just roll into a new email address until I sign up for enough crap using that one. And then it gets buried with all the freaking ads and all this crap. And I try my best to untick the little box that I want all your newsletters and all that garbage. But
Hmm.
it's still you still get hammered with emails.
So you're doing a credit card balance transfer, but with email.
Yeah, I've never thought of it that way, but yeah.
So your new email address inherits all your old crap, and then give it
Yeah.
a couple months, a couple years, and you do
Yeah,
it again.
I think probably about maybe 7 months ago, I actually sat down in one of my primary Gmail accounts, my personal Gmail accounts,
Oh yeah,
and
that's a whole day of just.
yeah, yeah, I was just like, dude, I swear I got carpal tunnel for an afternoon just clicking on delete, 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 delete.
But I remember when I became a full-time Linux user, I was very, very proud to use Thunderbird and have in my signature GNOME used to be able to tie a signature in that you were sending email from,
Yeah.
Ubuntu,
Or
GNOME, whatever.
yeah.
It would put a signature in for you, and I was proud of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember.
And email signatures you don't see a lot in Gmail or the web-based stuff either, and people like their email signatures.
It's funny you say that, because that's an actual little kind of kernel there that was like dropped in there as kind of like a little, like a little fairy dust, so to speak. That is very
Hmm.
true. I used to get off on that too. I used to be able to type, whatever, when you could custom edit it and stuff. I used to edit
Oh
it,
yeah,
yeah, sent from my godlike machine using Linux or whatever. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And yeah, I definitely, you used to have those little signatures like that, and until you just brought it up, it's amazing that it's gone away, and I just never even really paid attention to it, even though as much as I loved using it.
yeah.
Do we have any? How many people we got in the chat? Do you know?
The chat looks. Oh, it's Ben's here. Ben Fitzpatrick
What's
is
up,
here.
Ben?
Hey,
He
how you
is the
doing, Ben?
developer and maintainer of Storm OS, who we're going to have a review coming out on very soon.
Cool.
I, just sorry to interrupt and put a pause on what we were talking about.
No, all good.
But what's happened with me as of late, a lot of people may be wondering, hey, where you been? What's going on? Well, I have been working like a dog these last month and a half at my job. I have a day job. I work at a steel shop, and we primarily service construction companies that do major steel buildings and stuff, like all the warehouses on the West Coast for Amazon that are being built. All the steel's coming from our shop.
Oh
So,
wow.
I work what's known as an iron worker and also a hem saw, which I cut, angle, tube, flat bar, channel, all this stuff into actual pieces, and then the iron worker I use to punch actual holes in it from, you know, half inch all the way up to inch and a quarter holes and slots into things to make things usable for them. So, and I'm doing anywhere from 500 to 4,000 pieces at a time. So I've been working heavily doing voluntary overtime, trying to get my machines unburied. But then this coming up Monday, we're going to go on mandatory 10s. So that's where
Well,
I've been. I've been just like really slammed with personal stuff.
hey, you make things so that people can make things.
Correct. But I'm looking forward to having you in the channel now,
Oh yeah.
and we can go ahead and, if you feel comfortable, go ahead and announce what your role is going to be in the channel.
So I am a channel partner and co-host of the podcast going forward. So I'm going to be joining Alex doing the distro reviews and all the other types of content that we're going to be putting out on this new chapter for the Linux Tube.
Excellent. And I'm so excited for this because the help is definitely needed. Good distro review content needs to be continued to be made in a fair and, open-minded view, to continue to show new users and also, vets, what's available for
Yep.
them out there. I really enjoy that. What I love too is your knowledge that you're bringing to the table in the aspect of, like you said, the customer service side of like networking and that kind of stuff. I think that brings an aspect that to the channel that's much needed.
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and so I'm excited for the future of the Linux Tube going forward. I just hope that the users will continue to enjoy it, and
I think so. Having two viewpoints means, we'll get to go back and forth. We'll get to, pros and cons. One of us could play devil's advocate even. It gives us a more rounded way
rounded feel. I think so
to,
too. And to be honest with you, I think our chemistry's good. To be honest with you,
I think so too.
because you think of things that I don't think of, and I think of things that you don't think of. So it's definitely going to be a a good balance there, the yin and the yang of it, if you will.
What is Steve talking about?
I don't know. What did he say?
He said, WTF is wrong with Alex.
What? What does he mean?
I have no idea. Hey, shout out to Melissa in the chat. Welcome. Melissa's my partner, and she sometimes pops into my streams and my content. She is my quality control when I'm doing new distro testing.
Nice.
Um, and she's kind of the target that I use because she will happily use Linux, but she
Mhm.
doesn't want to mess with it. And
Oh,
she's exactly the kind of user that I wanted to talk to today when we start talking about beginner distros, because I don't mean it disrespectfully at all, and that's something I'm really passionate about talking about.
you know, that's what this channel was started for. Actually, was exactly this topic. Um,
Because I don't really think that there is such a thing as a beginner distro, and there are reasons that I say that. I think there are beginner friendly distros, but I think that it's
are you saying
kind of
beginner
a fet.
friendly or user friendly? Because there is definitely a difference.
Well, there is a difference. I think that beginner friendly distros will tend to be user friendly distros,
Correct, but I think
but
uh, a lot of them tend to fall more towards a user friendly than beginner friendly. And
I would agree with you.
the only reason why I say that is because realistically, let's just call it what it is. Documentation on distributions, let alone application use, in Linux historically has been a hot. You know, like wikis,
Yeah,
like you could either have you go to a distro or an application, you go to its wiki, and oh my god, it's either going to be a documentation bible, you know, or just a few
yeah,
chapters of like here's what it is,
like the
and figure
Arch
some
Wiki.
crap out. Yeah,
Yep, the
yeah,
Arch Wiki, the Gentoo Wiki, just bury you in thorough, verbose documentation that you're never going to get out from under without some serious sweat equity and hours in
correct.
that distro.
Absolutely correct. And that's what I'm saying. You know, I think to me a good beginner slash user friendly distro is one that has appropriate documentation, because the reality of it is, unless it is completely emulated of Windows or Mac for new people coming to Linux, they're never going to completely grasp the function of Linux.
Hmm. Go ahead and turn me down a little bit, please, Alex. Steve says I'm way too loud and you are stretched.
What does he mean by stretched?
Your camera aspect, he said, looks stretched. Yeah, Melissa said that I'm loud and boomy over you. So go ahead and bring me down.
Is that less stretched there, Steve? How is that? How's your volume now?
I guess we'll just have to see.
Huh. We'll have to see, because you're not pegging on my end at all.
No.
That's weird.
Yeah, I think that's weird too. But we sounded good in our testing yesterday.
I know.
But I guess what we couldn't hear is how we balanced
Yeah,
volume to volume.
yeah, volume to volume there. So I got you turned down. So hopefully,
Okay. Can
you're not.
anybody in the chat, now that we're both talking a little bit, Alex, just try to talk over me, and we'll see.
What is going on? Testing one, testing
Yep.
two, sound check, sound check.
Cool. Okay, the master found his students.
Who said that?
Steve,
so, so
need to
anyhow,
teach you things.
he needs to teach me things. Oh boy.
Yeah.
And here we go. He's the next Eric Dubois.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So,
But beginner friendly distros. I think they need to be geared towards people who aren't going to read the documentation. So the documentation doesn't have to be perfect. It
I
has to be
agree.
available for people who want it, but documentation is not going to be what gets the new user.
Well, and
Documentation.
not only that, but another thing that needs to be taken into consideration by the developers is their demographic audiences that they're you know creating for. Just
Right.
like when you're an artist and you're performing, you gotta cater to your masses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that being said, developers, like my age group, you're talking about people who barely know what Snapchat is, let alone what Facebook is. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
They're not going to go read the Arch Wiki.
exactly, they'll be like if they could turn on a computer and open up a web browser and find whatever it is they're looking for on the internet. Now, the generation behind us, or that's coming behind us, they're the ones that have grown up with internet in the home.
Yes.
And
But they're not necessarily looking for documentation either. They're going to go look for a YouTube video for it.
pretty much. And then the generation following them, which you literally dovetail into what I was getting ready to say, and then the generation behind them, they're the ones that are actually like gonna already know how to stop. In fact, most of them know coding language, which is one of the guys I was talking to and talking to you about in our Discord server. Oglo. This kid is he's genius. He's got his own YouTube channel. That he does stuff with, man, and like he just understands programming and language and that kind of stuff. So for him to uncomplicate something, is instant for him because he could flip flop between any kind of and distro and know because he's grown up in a computing world, technologically advanced, so to speak. So that's where I think the user-friendly distros need to figure out which democratic demographic they're developing for. And I think that's where the titans do, like Debian versus Arch versus Gen 2 and Slackware. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, in your mind's eye, what do you think is the ultimate distribution for user-friendly distro?
The ultimate user-friendly distro?
Mm-hmm.
Given that they're the same base, I think it's a little bit unfair to mention, but I'll still say I think it's a tie depending on who your audience is. Either straight up Ubuntu or Pop OS. I think they're kind of tied. And honorable mention, I would say, is Nobara, as far as 3 distros that I would carry as general
3
purpose.
definite stable distros.
Mm-hmm.
Very stable distros.
Right. Fedora's code base, not going anywhere.
No.
Ubuntu / Debian's code base, not going anywhere.
No.
For your office user, I would definitely point them in the direction of Ubuntu for that reason. And everything's just it's Mac-like, especially if you're on Budgie. Somebody who is used to a Mac, I would point to Budgie. You've got the stability of GNOME, but it's lighter weight and it feels like a Mac.
Right.
I would probably point a new user away from KDE in any use case.
Steve's cackles just went up.
Oh, I'm sure. I would not give a new user anything with KDE on it. I wouldn't, because KWin crashes entirely too much for no reason.
Buggy.
The menus are fragmented and scattered, and functions that should go together are wide apart. You have to dig through menus and submenus.
But if you think about it, that's kind of Windows-esque.
It is for programs, but like doing your desktop settings are generally in one area, doing your
Control
sound is in
panel,
one
yeah.
area. And KDE has that potential, and they've given you so much to customize that they get
I think they've overwhelmed people, to be honest with you.
yeah, there's too much choice.
Yeah, there is such a thing, as too much choice, and that is definitely what KDE does. They definitely overwhelm people with the customization, the
Yeah,
capabilities of their distro, which is or their desktop environment, which is fantastic.
yeah.
In the
Steve,
Linux
Steve
world,
has been activated.
I knew he was going to flip his gourd on that. I agree with you, but what
I love
about
you, Steve.
what'd he say?
He said, "What? I will do something bad now."
I actually am surprised that you didn't throw the number one referred to new individuals and arguably the number one touted as being the most beginner friendly distro of Linux Mint out there.
I've never used Linux Mint. I've never installed Linux Mint. I've never even booted a live ISO of Linux Mint.
I'm shook to the core right now. I think I feel a little lightheaded. What did you just do to me? You've never used Linux Mint? Oh
No.
my gosh. Oh man. So
Do remind me, do we have a Mint distro review?
I have one on the channel. That was one of the very first ones I did.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Because well, in that case, then I can't do it. I wanted to do a review of Zorin.
I've done Zorin as well. I haven't, I've done Zorin as well, and that was another one I was going to bring up, but it's in the same vein. All of them. If you think about it, what's the one common outside of the Nobara? What's the one common thread here? They're all Ubuntu based,
Right.
And Debian based. You know what
and
I'm
if
saying?
you know one, you know the family.
You know the family exactly. But to me, what the reason why, in my mind's eye, and arguably like in a lot of people's eyes, Mint is the go-to for somebody who's just starting to get their absolute toes wet in Linux, not their full feet, is because it's almost one-to-one comparable to the most common used, operating system of Windows. It's very similar.
Yeah.
From the look, the feel, the aesthetics are a little different, like the customizations there, but it's very mild, and very pleasing. And to be honest with you, arguably the cinnamon's done right. It's absolutely done right there, and it's so smooth and buttery to me, very stable because of the base platform that it's built upon. It's just a work of perfection. You really, really, really need to boot it up, in a live and just drive it around for a little bit, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay. Melissa said, sounds like an opportunity for her, and that she was willing to be a test subject. Well, maybe I
Perfect.
will do. Maybe I will do a distro review and do it from a new user's perspective. Like, do some content where I'll record her with a live ISO, just sticking in. Okay, now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now,
That'd be great. That would be absolutely fantastic because realistically, Cinnamon did the one aspect that you want to do in a distribution that is almost imperative if you're geared for the demographic audience of being a new to Linux user, and the fact that they kept it super simple.
Yep. Now, she came from a little bit of a Linux background before we got together. She used Puppy back in the day.
Oh, she was petting the little puppy, huh? That's awesome. That's pretty cool.
Puppy is not one that I remember very much either, but I know that it was very potato optimized.
It is. It's
Puppy
very
was.
potato optimized, and it's pretty lightweight too. As far as like using system resources. So yeah, Puppy Links is another good one too that I think is if you're kind of like starting to become an intermediate Linux user, you can jump to, and you're starting to look for lighter weight resources and that kind of stuff, and then you can build upon it what you need. That's a good one to do.
Yep.
One that you talked about that I thought that I enjoyed because it has dual aspects of it is Zorin OS.
Mhm.
And Zorin OS, the one of the aspects that, well, it's one of those distributions. Have you spun that one up? First off,
No, Zorin was on the list that I was thinking about doing
yeah. So
here.
they've got your basic free version, and then they have the paid for version, pro version, so to speak. And obviously, the difference is more apps and more support and more
Mhm.
integrated things into it. From the basic one. But
Right.
the look and feel, what's good about Zorin for a new to Linux type user or a beginner user is that you could switch your layout, your desktop environment layout on the fly.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, they've got a desktop switcher that's built into it that is they've got, I think, and that's the other version, the other part of the pro version that you get when you pay for is uh you get to get more actual templates built in. I
Mhm.
think you only get like 4 or 5 on the beginning one, the free version, and then on the paywall version you get like another 8 more, 6 more, something like that.
Right. And if you're opposed to the paywall, you can manually switch yourself. If you look up
Yeah,
how
you
to
can, yeah,
install DEs, things like that.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and
But
and
what you're
there's
paying for is that somebody has made that easy for you.
which, not to get on another topic here, but just kind of throw a little bonus out there. I don't see a problem with paywalling things because people should
No,
get paid for their hard work. Lots and lots of
absolutely.
hours go into developing these environments, these distros, all this other stuff. I mean, there are tons of thankless hours put into stuff, from
Oh,
content creators
absolutely.
to that. So paywalling, I don't ever have a problem with. In fact, Euro Linux is another one that comes with absolutely fantastic support, and I have actually bought a license, quote unquote, from them, and used them for quite a while now, and I really enjoy them. And they're based out of Germany, I think, and
Mhm.
sometimes I have a hard time understanding their responses, but they're fantastic. So I'll add that one to the list as far as a beginner distro because of the support level.
Okay. Yeah, support is worth mentioning. And, I'm going to call out Zero Linux here for a second, mentioning, that if it's Arch, it is not beginner user friendly. Arch generally tends to not be very beginner friendly. I will admit that that is correct.
And I will
Um,
second that. But what Arch
and
has begun to do is make it uh, installer
that's
friendly.
yeah. Oh, installer friendly now, yes.
Yes, it's
And
very installer
things
friendly.
are changing, and for as much as Dark Zero would have you believe that it's borderline witchcraft to use Arch with skill, his own distro, you know, Zero Linux
Hmm.
is I'm gonna say it's pretty user friendly.
It is till something breaks, and that's what I think he's more referring to. And it's not breaking because of him. It's because packages get merged, and the new version comes along and cripples something else. Which is not an uncommon thing to a veteran of Linux, but to a new person, they get lost. And then invariably, what will
Hmm.
happen is people will jump into his Discord or onto any forums and start asking a ton of questions instead of
Hmm.
going and visiting documentation that's readily available on the web. Now, mind you, like
Correct.
this last Grub issue, that wasn't as readily available on the web. So Steve, like he blasted on my Discord server, which, by the way, shameless plug, go ahead. If you haven't joined our Discord server, the Linux Tube, go ahead. The link's in the description down below. But either way, instead of going and looking for, some documentation to help you somewhat fix your issue or note that there's this issue and what caused it, so you could revert back if you have like snapshots or butterfs time shift enabled, if you're on butterfs, then you can roll back and fix your problem easily. But instead they'll tend to get a little lost, and that's where I think Arch isn't user friendly, because those kind of things happen. Because what is it? It's a roll and release, and that's what happens. Now, if they were on the LTS, they would experience a lot less difficulty, but still there's potential. And that's the other thing too that I don't think a lot of people talk about. Like, if you're a friend giving somebody a user-friendly distro like Zorn, Ubuntu, Linux Mint, yada yada, all the ones we've gone down the list so far, is definitely make sure that you are putting on, if they're very first getting into Linux, and this is their inaugural event. God's sakes, make sure that they're on an LTS and not a rolling release version kernel.
Absolutely.
Because I think a lot of people just go and grab the latest ISO without paying attention to what they're grabbing, because they're in a zeal to get their friend converted, or Linux installed, because they're under a time frame, to get it done, because this person needs to get up and running again, or whatever. That they don't pay attention to that, and that's an actual very important thing.
So, grub issues.
Yeah, that's
grub issues will scare away a new or non-power user so quick. You go, you do your updates like a good little user.
Well, that's the other thing that a lot of people don't really talk about, and most people don't know. Like, one thing that I found interesting that most people don't know, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate. I don't know how many people's in the chat, but when I say this word, it'll trigger a lot of people, and it's systemd. And a lot of people don't know this, but did you know that systemd actually has a boot manager?
I believe that it does, yeah.
No, believe it does, and you can use it. In fact, I find it hilarious that if you go to the Gentoo wiki and you start going down the handbook and you get down to your bootloader, they actually make mention of it, but they actually say you have to go elsewhere to find out how to set it up. But you've got other, things like Lilo out there and stuff like that are a little bit. They're a little bit.
Let's see. I used Refind.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yep, Refind's another one.
There's if you're on a Mac system, then Refind is what you need, especially for the older, like the 2011 MacBooks that are still kicking around. Didn't have a proper UEFI BIOS, so
right.
Refind is great for situations like that too.
Right, exactly. And so Grub doesn't always have to be the standard, and it has become the standard, much like systemd as your init system has seemed to become the standard. But
Grub's ugly. I'll just say it. Grub's ugly.
It is, and customizing it is definitely a crapshoot. You can get into it and edit your config file for it, and they've got Grub customizers. But the problem is once you
Grub customizer will wreck your whole shit.
Exactly. I was just getting ready to say, if you're a new to Linux user and you seem to find this because you're on a more faster paced scale and you're developing a lot faster, warning. Grub customizer, what it does is it completely rewrites your customization, your config file, to the point that Grub doesn't really recognize it anymore. So when you do an update, it won't write appropriately to update the parts that it needs to update correctly, and not keep your changes. So it creates a huge conflict in the most simplest way of putting it. And you will wreck your Grub, and next thing you know, you'll be unbootable, and you have to chroot in and remake Grub and all this good stuff. So and chrooting is definitely not for the faint of heart.
No.
So
nope.
Yeah, that's why I never understood why the boot manager couldn't have been a little bit more simplified. Although you do need it to do a lot of things, from the beginning. You know what I mean? To like boot a lot of init systems and a lot of different things, right? In display manager, all that kind of stuff, right from the go. So I get the complexity of it, but you know, they could make it a little bit better, I think. I have used Lilo, and Lilo, you've done Refine, but Lilo to me is the most basic of basics. It's very simple. It gives you two choices. You know, if you got multiple kernels installed, it gives you two choices, and that's it. You know, there's no halting the system or anything like that, or being able to. I think there is where you can hit like C to type in like a command line thing if you want to initiate something else or something like that. But that's about it. And I think that should be your bootloader. You know, honest to God, it should be that simple.
Right. I mean, I've also used Clover.
Yeah.
Clover's nice.
Mm-hmm. I've never used it. I've heard of it. Can you expand a little bit on what?
Oh, hey there.
Hey there,
We
who?
got a super chat from Zero Linux. Thank you.
Thanks, Zero. Thanks, Steve. That's awesome. I can't see the chats, unfortunately, because the way I've got my stuff set up, and I didn't want to, pause the stream or anything like that to do it. But
all good. I got eyes on the chat.
Nice.
Zero Linux says, "Plug my Arch Chroot video guide. LOL. Love you guys."
Hey, you know what, man?
For my second pod.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Let's plug that. That's pretty good.
That's a good tool that definitely should be at people's access. Arch Chrooting videos. I don't know if you've ever tried to look one up, but it's kind of like the documentation. Honest to God, it's either hit or miss as to whether it's a good video that's going to walk you literally through step by step by step by step by step, or it's going to be like, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and 5 minutes later you're done. And it's like, I didn't know anything. I understand that you did this, this, and this, but you missed how do I get here or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so Steve's Chroot video actually is a good one.
Yeah.
It actually is. It is definitely a good one. And if you ever have questions about Chrooting, definitely put that in your little arsenal to go back and review and look at.
Oh, absolutely. To answer your question, is Clover a Gentoo distro? No, Clover is a bootloader. And most often you're going to run across Clover being used in the Hackintosh community circles, because it was, for the longest time, the only supported, if you want to use that word, the only working stable way to boot a Hackintosh system.
Correct.
And you would use Clover to transfer the UEFI calls into BIOS instructions so that machines without UEFI could emulate UEFI and then get into the Mac OS system on a Hackintosh.
Right. Now, I was just getting ready to say, a lot of people may not know exactly what Hackintosh is, but Hackintosh is when you take Mac OS and you put it on other hardware that is not actually certified by Mac themselves.
Right.
And so it just won't boot in and work.
For legal reasons, it is against their TOS.
Exactly.
We have to say that.
Yes, we do. It is definitely against their TOS. Because, like I said, it's non-supported hardware. So you're technically unpackaging the for sale proprietary package and redistributing it illegally. So
yeah, it's definitely a gray area at best. And no 10 Liege, this is not a Gentoo video.
No, it is not. Or a Solace video. What's up, Josh?
Oh man, Josh, thanks for joining me earlier on the final Zero Bytes episode. We did some gaming, some frag and tag at the end of our farewell episode.
Nice. I caught just the end of that, and I gotta say, it was a good send off that you guys did on what you guys did.
Yeah, and it was time.
Yeah, and I'm honored.
How about Fedora? I mentioned Novara, so by extension, we can say that yes, Fedora was mentioned.
Yeah, but I kind of wanted. Okay, so somebody brought the elephant into the room.
Let's do it.
Who was it that brought the elephant in the room?
You know who it was. It
Oh,
was Josh.
So I have not done a video in my response to what Fedora did because busy. And
Fedora,
two,
or you mean RHEL?
Red Hat. Yeah, sorry, Red Hat. Yeah, Red Hat. And B, secondly, is
You have an OBS image in the bottom right of your screen, Alex.
oh, I do. How does that happen? There, it's gone now. That's crazy. Anyhow, Fedora doing what it did, a lot of people in the community are completely up in arms, and some people have called it proprietary garbage. Other people have called it the devil or whatever, and their view is certainly not wrong on proprietary stuff, but in this situation, I don't disagree with what Fedora has done. And the reason why is they're doing no different than what Canonical did in the beginning with Ubuntu from the start. One. Two, how many decades has Fedora given to the community up front with a lot of development and injection
Hardware
of money,
support,
hardware support, and all this stuff from its inception to now. And now times have come, they've got developers who have all along the way needed to be paid and done things, like Glorious Eggroll. I mean, he works for them and he created yeah, if it wasn't for him, if it really wasn't for him, where would Linux gaming be?
Linux gaming, I don't know that we wouldn't have, Steam on Linux. We wouldn't have the Steam Deck in its current form.
Valve would have never entertained Linux at all.
Oh,
they'd have
no,
continued
Linux
doing
was
what they
a
did for
joke.
Windows. Exactly. So that being said, with all of that, what is wrong with them now cashing in their chips, man? They're at the table in Vegas. They're just cashing in their chips. They've gathered them all up now, and they're going to the freaking cashier, and they're like, here, I want to get paid out. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And so like I said, I imagine people are blowing up on me a little bit, on that take, but I'm all for it. I mean, you look at, and if you think about it, all of the one-to-one clones like Rocky and Alma, have found a way, and they're going to find a way to move forward. It's not going to, their projects shouldn't die and aren't going to die, and even OpenSUSE, what they did is they forked the string, the code, the base code, the code base. You know what I'm saying? They forked it, and they're dedicating their resources to continuing it on as well. So I mean, already in the shift, the workaround's already been done for the most part. And
but I think we'll continue to see waves for a while, and I don't want to continue to perpetuate the firestorm in, countless rant episodes about it. They're going to do what they're going to do, and the beauty of Linux is that you don't have to stick with a distro you don't agree with. You're not stuck. It's so easy to migrate your home folder to a new distro. That's way easier than, say, Windows would be, moving from one install to another. And I think we're going to see shakeups in the landscape.
All joking aside, this is the reality. One of the main reasons why a lot of people can't stand Windows is even them updating their own system on the existing one you're using breaks 99.9% of the time, whereas migrating your home folder in Linux is pretty seamless.
Yeah.
So yeah, that being said, you're absolutely correct.
I would say it is easier, believe it or not, it is easier for me to stream on Linux than it is on Windows.
Really? I've never
Yes.
So I stopped using Windows. I think I drove Windows 7 for maybe about 10 minutes, and then I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. typical Windows, and then I left it. But the last true version of Windows that I actually used had to be XP when it first started.
I would
I
say
went
the same, other
from
than
98
projects
to
where I had
XP.
to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
98 was a solid one that I used, that I was, before I discovered, right around there is where, I started playing with Linux and stuff, and I was back and
Yep.
forth between 95 and Linux, and 98 and Linux. I was back and forth. But then actually Windows XP I rocked for a while at a job that I worked at, but that's
Mhm.
the only time I ever used it. When I went home, I was back on my Linux.
Do you remember when the VLK CDs would circulate around LimeWire?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what you would have after that, you started seeing the era of people that I feel like turned into distro maintainers, because you'd have your people that were making versions of XP, and they'd have hilarious bootloader splash images for XP,
Yeah.
or little tweaks around the OS, and you'd have your key gens with your chiptune music.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I remember all that stuff in your crack files and stuff like that.
oh
The
yeah,
I think the most coolest one, that you're going back into the archives there.
yeah,
The most
we're
coolest,
dating ourselves here. We're
yeah, the coolest
get our
one
walkers ready.
the one that I ever saw was the Pirate XP version, which you could
Yes.
still find that around on like a lot of your torrent sites and stuff like that.
Yep. Was that the one with the executioner on the
Yep,
boot splash?
yep, the execution and the
That's
boot
the one.
splash. Yep.
Yep, that's the one that I was thinking of when I said it.
Oh, really? Yeah, Pirate
Yep.
XP. I remember that was probably one of the coolest remakes that I ever saw. It was like I
Yeah.
was like, that's pretty cool.
But Linux helped me understand software to where I stopped pirating. I stopped pirating music. I stopped pirating software.
Was that
Stopped
not your
pirating games.
was that not your greatest day?
What, when you just decide to stop?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, I got I remember that too, because uh well, for me, as I when I was did Tech Over Tea with Brody, I talked about it a little bit, and you can go watch that video because he's got good stuff too, on his channel too. But uh, I ran a business, and I felt hostage by Windows, because at
Mm.
that time when I was using Windows to run my business on, because I needed computing software and stuff like that. And I felt nickel and dime and held hostage by Windows. So, by inherent need, and I'm not proud to admit it in any way, shape, or form, but it's also a part of life. At some point in time, anybody who's using Windows for a dedicated time will wind up pirating stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, that's just being honest, And so when I started doing that, I felt kind of bad about it, but I also
Well,
felt
then you should.
justified. But I felt justified because I was getting nickled and dimed to death. So you kind of put
Yeah.
in this total quandary, like, what do
Yeah.
I do? What am I left to do? And so when I discovered Linux, and I discovered viability to use it for what I needed to use it, which at that time wasn't a whole lot. In fact, you had to go
Right.
shopping with
You
hardware
check
that
your
was known
email.
to work with Linux to be able to use it.
That's
You know what I'm
true.
saying?
That
You
is
know,
true. Yep.
so at that time, when I discovered Linux, I really wanted it to work, and I worked extra hard to get out of it because I wanted to get away from the pirating.
Yeah.
And so I felt great when I didn't have to pirate more software.
Yep. But you know, and just to wrap up the discussion on beginner friendly distros,
Hmm.
they're great for bringing in new users who become veteran users. And we need to stop having this elitist attitude that, is Linux better than Windows? For most things, I would say yes. For some things, it's not.
Well,
I think that the community tends to be better when we decide to be better.
I
And there is so much more potential.
preach, preacher, because I'm telling you, speaking nothing but truth, man. Uh, you're absolutely right on that, 100%. And the one thing that I will add on to that is, as you become go shift from beginner to more veteran or seasoned,
Mhm.
Linux user, one of the things that you should diligently work hard on trying to get more comfortable with is avoiding the terminal and command line execution, because a lot of times as you become more of a power user or veteran user of Linux, it's just a lot faster.
It is.
It's just a lot faster, and it's not that scary once you start learning the terminal on how to do things.
Right.
And in the beginning, a lot of people tend to get scared of it because, oh, what am I going to do? Break my system? And
Well, there is that, but
there is that, because a lot of times you're doing things with sudo or administrative privileges. But the thing is if you don't get in there and run the risk of breaking it, then you're never going to experience the adversity to come back from. And every time you experience that adversity, it's a learning opportunity.
yes, but again, speaking on behalf of the beginner user, if you want to use that word again, not everybody wants to advance. And I think that Linux users deserve to have that same experience that Windows and Mac do, where it just works, where they can use it competently as a user, and they'll just call a Linux support person to do the things that you and I like to do.
Fair
And
enough.
I don't think that there's enough respect given to the people that just want to use it and not advance. Not everybody in a job wants to be a manager. Not every user wants to be a power user. They just want to have it work.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Especially, like, besides the home desktop, at the end of the day, you want to come home, check your email, watch a couple YouTube videos, maybe check out,
Play a game.
Yeah, exactly. You just want to turn on your box, and just go into what you're doing, and don't want to have to deal with a broken package or a broken update or whatever.
Exactly.
So
That's
yeah,
exactly who I'm speaking on.
fair enough. I could definitely see that. And then another place, dovetailing off what I said, being a business owner, you don't want your employees having downtime because they're having to fix some crap on their desktop. You know what I'm saying? Or your whole company's down, held hostage to half a day because it took you forever to find this stupid driver that you had to go back to because it got crashed or what. So yeah, I can get that.
Yep.
Do we got any questions or comments in the chat we need to address?
Vehement Ham says that they were here for the first episode of the Linux Tube's famous podcast.
What's up, Hammy? How you doing, brother? Miss you, man. Miss you. It's awesome to hear from him, man. Love that kid, man. That is another great dude, actually. He's admin in my Discord. He's taking some time off right now, for personal stuff or whatever. But he's admin in my Discord, and he's wicked smart too. He's the future of Linux. Him, Austin, Oglo or Oglo, I don't know how you want to pronounce it, but those three are definitely awesome people. Awesome people, man.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. We're starting to run down on time here. I don't want to put us over since we started late.
Yep. We're at 1 hour.
Yep. I want to thank everybody for the warm welcome. Thanks for being understanding when we had some tech issues for episode 1. Alex, thanks for bringing me to the team.
Hey, welcome aboard. I'm actually honored you decided to join me. You didn't have to. You decided to. I'm grateful for that, and I look forward to our collaboration and doing what we do.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to talk with you about planning out, the next couple of weeks of videos. We'll do some distro reviews.
Yeah,
I've got some other ideas that came out of the talk that we had today.
Oh,
so
awesome!
I am very, very excited. Thanks again to Dark Zero for the $5 super chat. That was a nice, welcome to the Linux Tube podcast.
Yeah,
and
thanks,
to the
Steve.
channel.
You guys, you're cool. Yeah, I always appreciate you. Love and respect you, man, and I love and respect all our audience. And thanks, guys, for all that you guys do. I'm back. Bigger and better things are going to be happening. Sorry, I've been away for a while, and I'm not lying to tell people that I'm still going to be a little bit slow on the uptake because we just got put on mandatory 10 hours for the unforeseeable future. But we've got, things coming. So hang in there, guys.
We get to split the work, so
Absolutely.
many hands make light work and all that, right?
Yep. I would love to thank our channel subscribers and our channel members. You guys, without you guys, this wouldn't be possible. So hope to see you guys in the next one. Other than that, if you just discovered the channel, go back to my library, check it out. See what
Smash
you guys
that
see.
subscribe button. Do it.
Yeah, smash it. Either way, guys, have a good one. We'll talk to you guys later. See you guys in the next one. Until then, y'all keep doing what you do. Keep on listening. Stay blessed and stay safe.